huge megapint developments in the Marilyn Manson versus Wood and Gore case. Manson's attorneys have just carpet bombed the docket with explosive allegations, just really amazing, have certainly changed my perception of this case. You will not believe what is in these documents. Why did it happen? As you know, the defendants had filed an anti-SLAPP motions against Manson, saying that they were protected by the California's anti-SLAPP law. That essentially freezes the case until the motions are heard. Those motions were set to the end of the year and the beginning of next year. However, the court, on its own motion, changed the hearing date to right now, but continued until August and September. So that puts these hearings right around the corner. To rebut these motions, Manson needs to show that he can make his case. He doesn't have to prove it, but he has to show he can make his case against the defendants on the claims that he has. So I suspected that he would have to come forward with some of this information that he has, some actual evidence in this case. And however, I didn't expect him to go ahead and just plop a nuclear bomb onto the docket and detonate it. And that is what has happened in this case. So that's why what's going on is going on, because he's trying to get more discovery. He wants to take a deposition of Wood and I think Gore as well, and do some other things and get these hearings moved back out a little bit to support all that. He dropped a bunch of evidence into the docket that's just insane. We're going to look at it, and we're going to start with this fake FBI letter. So as everyone knows by now, there was this letter presented purportedly from an FBI agent talking about the criminal investigation ongoing. They were referring essentially to Manson in this, whoever wrote this letter. Everybody knows that. There was a safety concerns for Evan Rachel Wood, safety of the utmost importance, etc. But it wasn't a real letter written by anybody having anything to do with the FBI or any other law enforcement. It was concocted. The text messages between Ilma Gore and Evan Rachel Wood showed that Ilma Gore drafted up some language, sent it over to Wood. Wood said, this is looking good, but can we take this part out? I don't really like that in there yet. And then that's what happened, and Gore made the revisions and sent this over. So it is very amateur-like. It doesn't have a letterhead on it. It doesn't look like anything that a kid couldn't use to try and get absence from school excuses. It's just amazing that anybody would believe it. However, the defendants presented it as a real letter from law enforcement indicating a concern over the safety of Wood. It's ridiculous. So one of the things Wood has said in defense is, hey, I believed it at the time I had it, and I only used it in his confidential custody proceedings. But Manson's team just blows all of that right out of the water. They introduce an email between Wood's father's child where she says, he says, hey, I've called that number. I can't get any FBI agent calling me back. And she says, hey, I don't know. That's the official letter. That's the number that's on the official letter. It's not an official letter. She knew it wasn't an official letter. So she right there, not in a confidential sense, saying this is an official document, but it is not. She also, when she originally sent it to the father, he got it over Signal app, and he says that the version I got had Ilma Gore's name at the top of it, and I knew who she was. I told Evan that, and Evan deleted this post. Okay, that's probably going to come back a little bit here in the story again. So again, further information there that this is just a pile of garbage. It's fake. There's also text messages from Ilma Gore using this alleged investigator's name and number to reach out to other people saying, hey, if you're a victim, you can call this investigator. You'll probably get the voicemail. The investigator's not going to answer the phone, but just leave a voicemail. But as the father noted, this number wasn't going to an FBI agent. It was going to someone else. Further evidence submitted by Manson's team showed that the someone else was another person named Michelle who Ilma Gore knew, who was receiving these voicemails and reporting them back to Gore and saying, hey, these people are calling me looking for Michelle Langer. What do you want to do? Do you want to straighten it out, or does Evan want to straighten it out? Gore says there must have been a mix-up on this number. Someone mixed up the numbers. I'll take care of it. Someone didn't do that. She did it. She's not even telling her friend, I used your number here. So the whole thing is a crock. I mean, it's just absolute BS. It was used to support Wood's concern or alleged concerns that she can move out of state with a child. She used it as a battering ram in a custody dispute, despite the fact that it's fake. And Gore was using it to help support the concept to victims that there's a serious law enforcement situation going on here. As an investigator you can contact when the number that was being given did not go to any law enforcement. Instead, she was being informed about it and was taking care of it. So the letter is completely blown out of the water. But the bomb goes off and the mushroom cloud just keeps getting bigger because Manson's team drops this megawatt, megapint, megaton bomb. Ilma Gore's twin sister files an affidavit supporting Marilyn Manson. She says lots of things in it, but material to this situation, she says she actually saw Gore working on this letter, manipulating it and changing it. She saw it on the iPad. And I think the worst thing in this so far as Wood is concerned, she said she talked to Evan Rachel Wood about it. She says in November 2021, she participated in a phone call over Signal with Evan Rachel Wood. According to Wood, she told Ilma Gore's sister, Ilma said you died 3 months earlier. And the sister replied naturally, I am not dead. Bizarre. That's bizarre. But on the topic of the letter, the conversation moved to what I saw on the broken iPad and in Ilma's discarded items. I told Wood I had seen a letter supposedly written about her by an FBI agent, and earlier that year I witnessed Ilma doctor the same or similar letter. In other words, I knew the letter was a fake. Wood's response shocked me. She said the letter was so important to her work against Warner and told me to, quote, think of what would happen, end quote, to her and the, quote, victims, end quote, if this ever got out to the media. I offered to send this information to her or her attorneys, but she declined. Putting one more nail in the credibility coffin of defendants on this fake letter, there's a declaration by an attorney who actually called the FBI and spoke to this agent, Michelle Langer, who is a real agent. And the agent confirmed she did not write the letter. That's not shocking. She never authorized the contents of the letter. Yes. She never authorized any use of her name on the letter. Of course. There's no federal violent crimes department at or associated with the FBI. Yeah. The attorney also said, well, do you know the people involved in this? And the FBI agent said, no, I've never investigated anything having to do with Marilyn Manson. How did this name come up and get on this letter? This FBI agent had been involved with an investigation into some complaints involving people who were associated with the Phoenix Act itself. Not Marilyn Manson, but within the context of the Phoenix Act. Don't know anything about it or where it went to, but her name came up in that because she was involved in it. So that's probably how the name got out there. So to end the story on the letter, the agent herself disclaims any association with this letter, which if she had written it, I would also be embarrassed to admit it, but obviously she did not. Let's leave the letter behind and go on to the next bomb on this thing, which is, I've already alluded to, which is Ilma Gore's sister has executed an affidavit supporting Marilyn Manson in this case. And it has some pretty incredible things in it. Apparently, they did live together for a while as the sister allowed Ilma to live in her house. Here's what she says about the iPad that Gore left behind. What I saw on the iPad horrified me. I saw emails and draft emails that were purportedly written or sent by me, which I had never drafted, authorized, or sent. And social media posts and draft posts purportedly written by me, which I never drafted, authorized, or posted. She also says, another series of items I saw on the iPad were pictures of emails and text messages from Ashley Walters that contained email addresses, social media logins, passwords, addresses, social security numbers, and other personal information about Warner, Marilyn Manson. So not only is it stunning that Ilma Gore's sister has decided to pitch in on Marilyn Manson's side of this case, but that also she has this level of relevant evidence because she clearly supports the claims made in the lawsuit that Marilyn Manson has, that his personal information, social media information, social security number, address, and stuff were given to Ilma Gore. Now, what was Ilma Gore going to do with those things, and what did she do with those things? Manson sets those things out in his lawsuit, but the predicate that she had access to those, that she made an effort to gain access to that confidential information, is supported by her own sister. Let's look at some more bombshells exploding in this case. One of the contentions, and in fact the defamation count, is about the allegation that Manson says the defendant said that he created video material involving sexual conduct of minors. Okay, so how do you prove that? How do you blow a hole in any defense to that? I mean, they got him on this video joking about that he made this video with someone who was potentially underage. Remember in that video he says, "I'm just kidding." Okay, so here's a text message from Ilma Gore to somebody that she's trying to speak with about potential abuse by Manson. And she says, "I'll be really candid with you. I run Phoenix alongside Evan Rachel Wood. Evan, ex-staff, and other people talk about the groupie video." That's the video that was subject to the little video clip that I'd put in earlier video about this case. "We know it isn't released because the girl was underage, and the content that is in it horrifies people." Okay, there it is right there in writing. You're telling people that this was an underage model, and you know it. You know that. Okay. All right, there it is. How do you know that? You don't know it. And in fact, the person who was in the video, here comes the kaboom, has filed an affidavit in support of Marilyn Manson in this lawsuit. And she says, at the time of making this video, I was 21 years old or older. I knew what the video was going to be about, participated in it willingly, had an idea about it with it, collaborated with Manson on it, explored things artistically, and I was paid for it. Now, I haven't seen that whole video or anything beyond that little clip about it. I'm sure it's probably not my thing. I don't care, because this woman says I was of age, consented to it, knew what I was getting into, did it, got paid, and I have no problem with the fact that I did it. That's the whole universe around this thing. That's it. So nobody could have known that this was an underage model involved in this, because there wasn't an underage model involved in it. But accusing someone of abusing people who are underage is a powerful medicine, because almost everybody gets really upset about that. That is bad news. So it is a great weapon to have if you have it. It's just that in this case, that particular allegation is false. And of course, Ilma Gore went on social media and referred to Manson as a rapist pedophile. If this was the evidence that she significantly had to base that allegation on, it doesn't look good. But there's another bomb that's gone off in this case, and it involves Ashley Smithline, who has a separate lawsuit. There's another declaration in this case of evidence involving the disclosure of a social media conversation between Ashley Smithline and this person. And I'm going to tell you some of the excerpts from it. Draw your own conclusions. Person to Smithline: "You're beautiful. You looked really good in that People magazine interview. I can feel your sorrow. I know you're struggling so much. They told me to lie and act and speak with no accent. It was truncated. Well, why would they make you speak with an American accent? To be like Evan? I got pulled into this whole cancel thing, and I just want to keep working and carry on living my own life." That's understandable. Are you going to be okay? You're going to be okay? "It wasn't something I knew I was even being brought into. I never wanted to cancel anyone, and I just fell in with influence. I want to work and move forward. Are you sure you're not Australian? Evan's documentary narrative just needs a certain spin for her billions." Then the person references, "You seemed a little strung out in the interview. They destroyed me. I had to be numb. All of you were roped into this. It was all Evan, sweetheart," this person says. Smithline replies back, "Esme and media and Ilma, to be fair. Good acting is one thing Evan has going for her." Smithline says, "But they really let me be Patsy and take it worst. I left the country." Yeah, the media was also roped into this. Evan has a lot of power. She controlled everything. Smithline: "I can't exist in that cruelty. People take the purest, kindest souls to take falls." Then finally she says, "I've fallen for someone, and we went about it as adults." Now the situation here, of course, is what Manson's trying to show in this lawsuit against Wood and Gore, is that they had a coordinated conduct of action to make abuse allegations against him that were not true, and that caused him intense emotional distress. So showing that they took affirmative actions like working together to create this fake law enforcement letter, lying about it, of one of the alleged victims telling people on social media, "Yeah, I really got kind of pushed into this. This wasn't right." Gore's sister coming out and saying that this thing was fake, that they told me just this is really important for what we're doing against Warner. And then Manson says in his own declaration that he has suffered intense emotional distress. And he would say that because he notes that amongst many other things, the swatting, the this, that, and the other, that he says he's never abused a child, doesn't want to abuse a child, doesn't threaten children, and yet many people think he's a pedophile. That's pretty powerful. I get that. That's not a non-serious allegation. This is taken to the maximum. Gore has a history of finding herself in these kind of bizarre situations of conflict. Remember, she alleges that after she painted this painting, derogatory to some degree or whatever, about Trump, that a Trump supporter saw it and was so outraged, tracked her down in Los Angeles or wherever she was, a noted Trump hotbed, punched her in the face for the audacity of this painting. But then later on, she was essentially kidnapped by an Uber driver who was also a Trump supporter, who took her around to the top of a cliff because he was so upset as well. Just recognized her and knew about this painting, something I certainly had never heard of before. So a second incident of this painting that she wanted to sell for a lot of money. Make your own judgments on that. And here we are again, where the Phoenix Act was created. There was money involved in it. Part of this Me Too movement that's going on. In my mind, these cases, oftentimes they come down to the credibility of the people involved in it. And obviously they're going to use Manson's stage character to try and go against his credibility, that it is a stage character that appears to be abusive. Is that true in real life or not? Well, they need to show that, but that's their angle. But on the defendant's side, Manson's attorneys have done a fantastic job of showing that these people do not have credibility. They don't deserve your trust because they have lied about so many things that we can show they lied about. Why would you trust them for any of the other allegations? And to me, extremely material in that is Gore's sister saying that Wood told her that this letter is really important to the work I'm doing against Manson. Why do you need a fake letter to be so important against Manson if the things you're saying are true? Why do you have to create falsehoods? So creating a falsehood is important to your work against Manson. Is it the only falsehood you created? Yeah, I don't know about that. So I think Manson's attorneys have done a fantastic job of bolstering their case to try and get past the anti-SLAPP motions. They're not just trying to do that. They want the judge to order limited discovery, which the judge can do, hasn't decided yet, and the defendants oppose that, so that they can get even more information and push the hearings out a little bit so they have time to get this information, digest it, and present it to the court. In my opinion, they've already made their case to get past the anti-SLAPP motions, but I understand where they're coming from, that they need to be and should be as prepared as they possibly can be to try and defeat these motions, because it would end part of their case. But their lawyers do know, which I've reported before, even if the anti-SLAPP motions were successful, the case proceeds on the remaining counts. So the case does not get concluded with the anti-SLAPP motion. There will be discovery. And to me, that plays in the favor of Manson's attorneys that we're going to do discovery anyway. Let us go ahead and do a little bit of it because it's material to these anti-SLAPP motions. But they brought their A game. They brought receipts. They just completely obliterated, in my opinion, the credibility of the defendants and showed a lot of evidence supporting the contention that there was a coordinated activity based on falsehoods to damage Manson. Regardless of whether he did some of the abuse or all the abuse or whatever, that's a separate issue. What he has shown, although he denies all those things, what he has shown is that there was a concert of activity here designed to damage him, not based on the truth. Not that everything necessarily isn't based on the truth, but there are clear falsehoods here. And once you demonstrate that, and you demonstrate that somebody has the motive to lie, the willingness to lie, where do you draw the line on that? Do you trust the liar? Well, I lied about this, but I wouldn't lie about that. Believe me on this, okay? You got me on that one. But no one can prove that this isn't true, so just trust me on it. That's a hard case to sell. And I know I said it wasn't precedent, but it is useful to look at if you go back to the Amber Heard case, because this is true in every case. She did some things that cost her credibility. She talked about, I donated this money, and then moved that back to I pledged it. Some of the pictures that she presented, those things cost you in the eyes of the jury and a judge too. They cost you. If you're called out on these material things, that you're not being candid, you're not being truthful, what's the rest of your story worth? So great job by Manson's attorneys. We'll see what the defendant's attorneys do. They're all skilled, highly skilled attorneys in this case. So I'm not surprised that they would bring an A game, but boy, did they bring it. So we'll see what happens next. Thanks.